I feel like the last couple of years you've like purposely picked this fight with the red states. I mean, the DeSantis. Yeah, but I don't want to live in the Civil War.
I agree with that.
You know what?
Well,
but you seem like you purposely want to set up this dichotomy between, oh, this is a blue state and that's a red state.
You got folks out there trying to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. America in reverse, rolling back voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, but contraception. I mean, it's a profound and consequential moment. And you could sit by and say, well, I really want to get along, as these guys are rolling back the clock.
Bill Maher didn't hold back during his heated exchange with Gavin Newsom on Real Time with Bill Maher. And honestly, no one saw it coming. Sure, Maher has been throwing sharp jabs at the woke movement lately, but taking direct aim at Newsom? That was unexpected. With his signature wit and relentless questioning, Maher backed Newsom into a rhetorical corner, leaving him scrambling for a way out. What unfolded wasn't just a casual debate, it was a full-blown verbal showdown. So what really went down? And more importantly, who walked away victorious? Stick around, because this is about to get interesting.
The governor gave this creepy speech where he was talking about speculators coming in and talking about what to do with the land of all these homes that have been burnt down.
We're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who had some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators coming in, buying up properties.
While it's still only 6% contained, and he did this little dance.
All right, let me set the scene for you. Bill Maher, sharp as ever, firing off questions like a verbal machine gun. And Noam? Well, let's just say his evasive maneuvers were on full display. You could practically see the gears turning as he scrambled for answers, while the audience sat in stunned silence, jaws practically on the floor.
You'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive, coming from this state and what he's done in this state, to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but no, this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing states, there's only 8 of them.
Right.
Gavin Newsom attempts to defend himself, but let's be honest, it completely backfires. Instead of salvaging his argument, he ends up making things worse, leaving himself open to even more criticism.
Well, I mean, California is an interesting case study, isn't it? It's the size of 21 state populations combined.
Yeah.
2/3 of the state is very deeply red. We don't need to be lectured on rural politics or border issues. I mean, in so many ways, these are familiar issues, and the issues of the heartland of the United States are very much a part and parcel of the work we're doing in this state. But look, I understand this notion that you're from the coast, you don't understand those things. You can't talk the language, you're not able to communicate, and you're not able to actually encourage and find that common ground.
It's stuff like there's a new law in this. I think we have way too many regulations and laws, as we've talked about. And this one, I think, says if you're a department store with over 500 employees, you have to have a gender-neutral toy department.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it.
So do you think that's silly? Do you think that's a silly thing that we too much government there?
If you were really paying attention, you could almost hear the collective gasp from the audience when Ma hit Noam with that question. No one expected him to go straight for the jugular, calling out that absurd state legislation so directly. The moment was pure political theater. Gavin's face said it all. A flicker of shock, a slight hesitation, and then that barely noticeable stammer as he scrambled for a response. Ma had him backed into a corner like a cat playing with a very nervous mouse. Except this mouse had a perfectly sculpted hairstyle and a rapidly shrinking escape route. But as any seasoned politician would, Gavin spotted his way out and seized it without a second thought. Let's break down his response, and trust me, I've got plenty to say about it.
That's an interesting one, because the department stores came to us supporting that, and they were the ones making a case for that. They were making us. They're already moving in that direction.
Wanted you to make a law about them?
Well, but they supported the legislation. It wasn't legislation that was enacted, that was initiated from my office, but it was legislation that came up with interesting support from the industry itself. But I understand how that's exploited, and good people can disagree. But that's not something we woke up and said, this is a top priority for the state, when we know the top priorities are homelessness, housing, the issues of crime, quality of life, and issues related to regulation and taxes, which are all top of mind. But I get how those things are weapons.
The question was simple. Doesn't Nome think the government is overreaching by mandating that toy stores with over 500 employees create a neutral section? But instead of giving a straight answer, because that would be way too easy, Gavin took the scenic route. He launched into a long-winded explanation about how department stores are supposedly thrilled with this decision. Oh really, Gavin? That's nice and all, but it still doesn't address the actual question. Classic political maneuver: deflect, distract, and hope no one notices the dodge. This is exactly what happens when politicians try to defend their own policies. They twist themselves into rhetorical knots, sidestepping the core issue like they're playing a high-stakes game of political twister. But this time, Ma wasn't about to let Gavin slip away that easily. Watch closely. Bill starts by throwing in a little flattery, setting the stage before pressing for a real answer. What happens next? Well, let's just say things get very interesting.
All right, so one, I got you here because I live here and I'm not going anywhere. So I just want to make this a better state like everybody else. And good job this year making it rain.
You're welcome.
Because
that was my legislative priority.
Bill throws in a seemingly harmless compliment, but the irony isn't lost on Gavin. He shifts uncomfortably in his seat as if bracing for impact because he knows what's coming, and he's right. You can hear that nervous chuckle ripple through the audience. They sense it too. Their so-called golden boy is about to walk straight into a rhetorical buzzsaw. Gavin, ever the smooth-talking pro, was gearing up for his grand mic drop moment, but before he could deliver, Maher flipped the script, and when it landed, it wasn't just a mic drop, it was a full-blown demolition. Gavin floundered, the audience winced, and Maher, he just leaned back, watching the chaos unfold like he had a front row seat to a train wreck.
And we still don't have enough water in the Colorado River and all this stuff. And then whenever I read 80% of the water goes to agriculture. Almonds. No one ever asked you about almonds? Oh, I'm going to ask you about almonds. We grow a boatload of almonds
I'm well
here.
aware.
You know how much water it takes?
Many gallons.
1,900 gallons to grow a pound of almonds. Come on, man. Take on big almond.
Take on big almonds.
I mean, it's not like we don't have the water.
Another power move from Ma for years. California officials have been sounding the alarm about water shortages, insisting that the rivers just can't keep up. But guess what? Turns out there is enough water. The real issue is where it's going. And here's the kicker. A staggering 80% of it is being guzzled up by almonds. Yep, almonds. Here's a wild fact. These tiny nuts soak up as much water as all indoor household use combined. And for what? A mere 2% contribution to California's economy. Talk about an imbalance. So Ma had one simple question. What's Nome actually doing to fix this water crisis? And just wait, because watching Nome dodge that question is like watching someone trying out for Dancing with the Stars.
In those extreme years with these atmospheric rivers, wets are getting a lot wetter, dries drier, hot's getting a lot hotter. And so we've got to modernize our conveyance system. We've got to modernize our storage, not just above ground, but below ground. And so that's a big part of our focus and frame, including desalinization plants. We have 20 projects just on desal that we're working on today. So we put out a detailed water strategy that includes, by the way, getting that Delta Conveyance project back up and operational, and includes the first above ground off stream storage facility in half a century in the state, which, by the way, is being aided by a regulatory package I pushed forward to reduce red tape in the state of California and address the permitting quagmires that you rightfully pointed out.
Did you catch that political wordplay? Because I sure did. The question was simple. What's Gavin Newsom actually doing about the almond crisis? But in classic politician fashion, he dodged it completely. Instead of giving a direct answer, he launched into a long-winded speech about rainwater storage and vague water management plans. Basically, a whole lot of nothing. Here's the real issue. California isn't just running out of water, it's hemorrhaging it. And where's a massive chunk of it going? Almond farming, a multi-billion-dollar industry that surprisingly only contributes around 2% to the state's economy. But rather than acknowledging that uncomfortable fact, Newsom did what politicians do best: skirt around the real problem while pretending to tackle it. And that, my friends, is modern politics in a nutshell. Don't actually fix anything, just just throw around a few trendy buzzwords and hope nobody notices the lack of real solutions. If you watch closely, even Bill Maher couldn't keep a straight face. He saw right through Newsom's deflections and called him out for it. Say what you want about Maher, but he doesn't let his own side off the hook, and that's why I respect him. This interview exposed a hard truth. Political narratives matter more than real accountability. They'll talk in circles, sidestep inconvenient facts, and then congratulate themselves on their so-called progress. But the moment they're pressed for real answers, the whole act crumbles, like a gluten-free cookie in a San Francisco coffee shop. So what do you think? Did Newsom successfully dodge the tough questions, or was his response as empty as it sounded? Let's hear it.
I'm telling you, you're good at this job. Okay.